The expanding reach of military power on U.S. soil, a glimpse into DOD directive.
You said that you could use a semi-automatic weapon to fight tyranny.
Sure.
You mean you'd use it against American troops?
Are you saying the military would point guns at its own citizens?
Then we have the September 27th update, which feels like a preparation for something bigger. Why would the DOD suddenly need clearer guidelines on using force, particularly in response to civil unrest? Are they expecting something?
He's talking about the enemy within our country, Pennsylvania. He's talking about that he considers anyone who doesn't support him or who will not bend to his will an enemy of our country. It's a serious issue. He is saying that he would use the military to go after them. Think about this.
Oh, we've thought about it, trust me. You've given us enough reason to do our research. Rogan said what?
This new martial law thing that the Biden administration pushed through.
Yeah.
This is very disturbing. DOD Directive 5240.01, giving the Pentagon power for the first time in history to use lethal force to kill Americans on U.S. soil who protest government policies. That's terrifying.
So what Kamala keeps saying that Trump is going to do to American citizens, she just made it legal. So yes, Kamala, there is cause for concern. Why would you put an authority into place that gives the military the right to kill Americans on American soil unless you are up to something, scared, or suspect of a future event? We're going to go over what they enacted, but first, let's put a little context to show how this can play out, and very soon, I might add. Just listen to how she's fomenting and prophesying this event as if they're formulating it and conjuring a plan to bring it to pass.
He who calls Americans who disagree with him the enemy from within. You know where that language comes from? The enemy from within, talking about Americans. He who says he would use the military to go after them. Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within.
She is pushing this hard, ladies and gentlemen. A little too hard if you ask me, but what I've heard floating around is the famous Karl Marx quote, to establish Marxism, he would use this tactic. Karl Marx once said, accuse your enemy of what you are doing as you are doing it to create confusion. So what would something like that look like?
He said he will target and punish those who disagree with him or refuse to bend to his will.
For every conservative American, this is what happens in the last days of a dying regime. They will never shut me up. They'll have to kill me first. I have not yet begun to fight.
He calls these Americans the enemy within and says that he would use the American military to go after American citizens.
President Harris said today in her post, in her speech, she said that President Trump was going to turn the U.S. military against the American public and use the public to promote his agenda. How many of you think that is true? Well, what's interesting to me is that the Biden-Harris administration has done something 2 weeks ago that has never been done in American history, which is to send exactly lethal force, to send a directive to the Pentagon, changing the law to make it legal for the U.S. military to use lethal force against American citizens on American soil. Technically, now it's legal, the U.S. military, under this directive, it will become legal for the U.S. military to shoot and kill Americans who engage in political protest because they disagree with policies of the White House. I'm not making this up. Any of you can look it up. This is a Democratic initiative. This did not come during the Trump administration. This did not come from Donald Trump. It came from the Democratic Party. And that's why I left the Democratic Party.
Journalists whose stories he doesn't like. Judges who insist on following the law instead of following him. It is for reasons like these that General Mark Milley, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Donald Trump's top general, has called Trump, and I quote, fascist to the core. And it is clear Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged, and will stop at nothing to claim unchecked power for himself. He wants to send the military after American citizens, fascist to the core.
Trump's a fascist? Oh, great. Thanks for telling us now. But generally speaking, it's kind of odd that the man is 78 years old, has been in politics for 8+ years, president for an entire 4 term, and we finally get told he's a fascist 5 days before the election. Now that's not odd, is it? All of this is concerning, and as much as the censorship over the media is hounding Republicans now, what about this type of rhetoric instilling fear of being locked up by a president, being stripped of humanity, and trying to make Americans afraid of someone who could be your next president? Strip the hope of all the people. Make them feel like Hitler's their new leader, right? It's just all, it's all way off. It's just out there. It doesn't cut the smell test. But let's get back to the directive that actually has been given to the Pentagon. This is what scares Rogan, and every American needs to know what could be taking place right now as we get ready for November 5th. Okay, what we're going to do here is we are going to go to somebody that knows a little bit about this more than I do, Ronald Chapman, Esquire, LLM, of Ronald W. Chapman. Here we are. He goes over this in detail for each of us to know. I'll probably cut through it because it might be a little bit too long, so I'll try to cut it short in lieu of your time. But let's just get the meat and potatoes of what is actually happening here in this DOD directive.
Experience training United States Marines on use of force guidelines. Ron is a former Marine Corps judge advocate and has significant experience training United States Marines on use of force guidelines, including DOD 5240.1. The expanding reach of military power on U.S. soil, a glimpse into DOD Directive 5240.01. When most people think about military power in America, they think about foreign threats, the military as a shield against forces outside our borders. But what happens when that military power starts turning inward? We've got laws for that. The Posse Comitatus Act, a piece of legislation from 1878, specifically limits the federal government's ability to use the armed forces for domestic law enforcement. It's a cornerstone of American democracy, a way to ensure that our government doesn't blur the line between military and police, a line that keeps us from becoming a country where soldiers patrol our streets. The DOD's recent directive, 5240.01, though, feels like a quiet step in the opposite direction. It essentially broadens the military's authority to aid law enforcement during civil disturbances. Now, let's unpack what that means and why it matters. The directive authorizes support in exigent circumstances, like natural disasters or large-scale violence. But civil disturbance? That's a term with a lot of room for interpretation. Take, for example, the events of January 6th, a day that will likely live in our memories and the history books for a long time. It's not hard to imagine how a future administration might use this directive to call in the troops if something like that were to happen again. Under the current directive, we're looking at a situation where if civil disorder escalates, the Secretary of Defense could approve the use of military assets in the streets. And if the situation calls for it, there's even potential for deadly force. Now, deadly force is a serious step. To authorize it against U.S. citizens, well, that should require a pretty high bar. And yet in this directive, we see the criteria loosen, with authority trickling down to military heads and senior officials. The door is open for them to act swiftly, especially if there's a perceived threat to life. It's a fast-track process designed to give the military flexibility in chaotic situations. But at what cost? This could place the military in direct confrontation with civilians on U.S. soil. Then we have the September 27th update, which feels like a preparation for something bigger. Why would the DOD suddenly need clearer guidelines on using force, particularly in response to civil unrest? Are they expecting something? Preparing for the unthinkable, like a coup or large-scale insurrection? This update suggests a shift towards readiness, a proactive stance, where military intervention could very well become a tool in maintaining order. And that sounds a lot like the prelude to government overreach. It's not just about enforcing the law, it's about setting up a system that can quickly transition to military action. We're not talking about disaster relief or a one-off situation. This directive reads like a playbook for long-term domestic military engagement. So as we consider the implications of Directive 5240.01, we should remember that laws are only as good as the people enforcing them and the power they're given. If we start seeing the military on U.S. soil positioned to restore order or confront civil disturbances, we might want to ask, where does it end?
That's my question. Actually, my question, let me know what your comments are on this down below. My biggest concern is what he said is what are they preparing for? And if you look at on that line, it says, this line was blurred by these changes. That line was blurred by these 3 changes to the DOD directive for the use of force. So we've already have steps in place. Should anything happen, we've been wanting to keep it that way, but we don't want the military pointing guns at civilians. Now we look at, I remember this segment, I think it was Chip Roy and Nadler. They had this exchange when Chip Roy was talking about the Second Amendment rights. And Nadler said something as to the fact where, are you saying you would point guns at your own military?
Would the gentleman yield for a question?
Briefly.
Yeah, very question. What do you use semi-automatic weapons for?
I use semi-automatic weapons to kill hogs. I use semi-automatic weapons for sport and shooting on our property, but I also have semi-automatic weapons, and I'm getting to the point.
Thank you.
Because a semi-automatic weapon is a weapon that you can use for self-defense. It is a semi-automatic weapon that you can use to defend yourself against home invaders, but also, let's be clear, against tyranny. The gentlelady is talking about the Second Amendment in the context of hunting, as if my rights are reduced in the Constitution to a 410 or a single shot or lever action 22, as if that was what was expressly put forth as how we're supposed to be defending ourselves.
Gentleman yield again?
Let me go ahead and finish my time, sir, unless we want to add more time.
Very, very quickly question.
I need more time. Will the gentleman give me another 30 seconds?
Yes.
I'll yield.
You said that you could use a semi-automatic weapon to fight tyranny.
Sure.
You mean you'd use it against American troops?
The very existence of the Second Amendment is designed purposefully to empower the people to be able to resist the force of tyranny used against them to step over their natural rights given to them by God. That is why the Second Amendment exists. That is very specifically why the Second Amendment exists. And let's be very clear about that. Let's rewind the clock a little bit, as I know at least several justices have written in Supreme Court opinions, but about what life looked like in the 19th century and what the government was doing to remove the ability of either slave owners or, importantly, freed blacks, or importantly, whites who even stood up in defense of blacks or against slavery, and the efforts by the South and the efforts by the strong arm of government to remove their ability to have firearms.
American military? And Chip Roy said, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I have the right. My question was, stop for a minute. Why is Nadler saying defend the military. Why isn't he saying, if I was Chip Roy, I would have said, are you saying the military would point guns at its own citizens? Is that what you're saying? And that is what they're saying here, is now the military can come in and point guns at American citizens. That to me sounds just insane. But that's just my thought. Let me know what you think down below. Okay, so whatever part of that you understood. There's some of it that I just was just like, okay, it's a little too much, a little bit out there, but it's something that really needs to be concerning. Now, here is what really concerned me. Okay, this is what really concerned me is when Kamala Harris came out, I believe it was from the White House, and she made a declaration, literally, about Trump's being, his enemy. He's the enemy from within declaration that she brought to the public, making it feel like it was just like she had all of these facts when she's really just spitting what she's portraying to you as fear of what Donald Trump's going to do. But this here is more concerning to me than anything Trump ever said. Watch how she used the platform in this manner to push the fear. And we'll go over this real quick. I think it's the way she did it. It's just like was so set up, so media, so Hollywood, and to try to make her look powerful, like this is really a thing and it's going to happen to you, knowing that with everybody knowing that she's the one who put this bill in. Okay, remember that she's the one who put this directive in there. Her and Biden. Listen closely to her rant. Okay, this is like storybook. Like she's setting up the playbook. To me, it's just my opinion, just a theory. Maybe a conspiracy, maybe not. Within 6 months, we'll find out. But here, let's take a listen together. Okay.
So yesterday we learned that Donald Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, a retired 4-star general, confirmed that while Donald Trump was president, he said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that...
Wait. Why did he say that? Because he doesn't want a military. He didn't say this. He didn't say what she's saying right here. He said, maybe he might have said, yeah, I want generals like Hitler had. They were generals that took over the world. He didn't say he wants to do what Hitler did. He said he wanted generals that were strong enough to go in and fight an enemy. That's what, maybe he said that, maybe he didn't. We don't know. But she's saying that she said that. And then she said, because he wants to, she goes off on a spiel here. Listen to that again, okay?
President. He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military.
We just read where they're taking the Constitution, the 1878 laws, and ripping them to shreds right now. And now she's saying he wants this, he wants that, he wants this. What? Why? How are you saying this? Literally. And it's worldwide news, and it goes over every media outlet. And she's just spewing and regurgitating this crap with no facts. This is like the worst. I mean, this is what concerns me, is this.
Loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally. One that will obey his orders even when he tells them to break the law or abandon their oath to the Constitution of the United States. In just the past week, Donald Trump has repeatedly called his fellow Americans the enemy from within.
No, he didn't call fellow Americans the enemy from within. He called the deep state, not the citizens that don't work in politics. He didn't call us enemies from within. He called you and your Ponzi's down below. That not even you, but the ones that work for you that haven't been elected, the enemies from within, probably people Kamala doesn't even know. They're trying to disrupt the system. But anyway, the way she puts it, like he's coming after American citizens, and she's the one who writes these laws for the military to point their guns at us. Come on, really.
from within, and even said that he would use the United States military to go after American citizens. And let's be clear about who he considers to be the enemy from within. Anyone who refuses to bend a knee or dares to criticize him would qualify, in his mind, as the enemy within, like judges, like journalists, like nonpartisan election officials. It is deeply troubling and incredibly dangerous that Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people.
What evidence? What evidence? What evidence? All of this. What did she say? What evidence? Donald said he wanted generals like Hitler had? I definitely have seen some of the American generals out there. I don't want them. They're kind of, I mean, he doesn't want these woke guys anymore. He doesn't. He doesn't. I get that. But he's not talking about attacking the American people. And where does she get with all this evidence? Like, she just brought forth, open the Twitter files. No, here's the evidence. Here's what is literally the meat and potatoes of it all. These are the facts. Where are the facts? Fact check this. If CNN fact check this, what would they get? C-SPAN. She's on C-SPAN. C-SPAN, don't even fact check it. Just listen to Kamala. Whatever she says, yeah, you don't question that. I don't know. You tell me. This is the what?
All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is, from the people who know him best, from the people who worked with him side by side in the Oval Office and in the Situation Room. And it is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist.
Come on. Is anybody eating this? Is anybody eating this? I just want to know. Is anybody believing what she's saying? Is true. I'm sure maybe a few people might. A few people might, actually. Who knows? But I don't know. I'm not. Are you?
Who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasing.
That sounds like Nancy Pelosi. This sounds like Nancy Pelosi wrote this. And it sounds like what they do. It sounds like what they've been doing. And it's like what we just read. Mark said, hey, man, whatever you're doing, make them think that the other people are doing it. It's kind of sketchy. I'm just saying. What would you call it?
Unhinged and unstable. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable. And in a second term, people like John Kelly would not be there to be the guardrails against his propensities and his actions. Those who once tried to stop him from pursuing his worst impulses would no longer be there, and no longer be there to rein him in. So the bottom line is this.
This is the same lady that was also saying nothing's wrong with Biden. No, he's not unstable. No, he's perfect. He's legit. In the same news media that was saying, hey, he's good. He's good. You guys wait and see. And the whole time people are saying, dude, he's way off. We can see this. She's way off. As far as what she's saying, she's not speaking facts. I'm not saying she's crazy. I don't think she's mentally incompetent. I don't. I think she's a very smart woman, or she wouldn't be where she is right now. But what she's saying right now is just political. And it's probably a smart thing to say political if you're losing in a race and you're throwing out that Hail Mary, which is what it looks like to me. But it's very dangerous on what they're doing. It's very dangerous, too, that she's playing political games with American freedoms and trying to scare people instead of giving them hope for the future. You know? So.
We know what Donald Trump wants. He wants unchecked power. The question in 13 days will be, what do the American people want? Thank you.
And she gets to walk away without questioning. And she gets to walk away without even questioning her on what she just said. No, 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 no. No, you don't. No, you don't. And when these questions get brought up and how you come to these as being able to come and state this on national television, how do they do it? How do they do this? How do they get away with this? If Trump ever came out and said this stuff about them without backing it up, boy, they would be hammered. He would be hammered. He would be hammered. He would just get, they'd come after him. Guys, girls, I want to thank you all for watching. Ladies, gentlemen, for watching. And please like, subscribe, click that notification button so when we get more of this information out, you can get it in and let me know what you think about this DOD bill, this directive. I don't like it. I don't like it a bit. See you on the next one. Love you guys. Bye-bye.